Welcome, everyone. Another Pyrography meeting. We've got more people tonight. Now, the other thing I would say right off as we begin, if you could also notice that some of the emails we sent, I think the last one on the Pyrography, that Keith Kirkham has set up a Facebook page called OWCA Pyrography. In two separate words, you'll see it if you're on Facebook. You can join that, and this is more of an immediate thing because our Pyrography group goes for about roughly we're about 1 month apart on our meetings. And so this would help us to stay a little bit more up to date, even on things that you're doing. You'd like to post something or ask questions about it. The Pyrography group people will be checking in quite often to let you to answer the questions. So that would be great. Okay. Pyrography in our June meeting. Here's comes up the first picture. I hope comes up, right? Oh, no, pardon me. It was Brian Bell, not Agnes. Brian, are you there tonight?
I'm here.
Can you tell us about what happened when you did this character?
The one that said I do not know Harry Potter or this one. So at any rate, I just took it and thought I would put some shading on there to make his arms round, his legs look a little round, put some roundness in the facial. I suppose I could have done a little more with the clothing, makes a few more dents in it, but I find I can do rounding by darkening the edges and shading up and in, and usually going with a bit of a rounding motion. As one of my former instructors said, there's not a straight line in any human. So you don't draw anything with a straight line. Put some kind of a twist or a turn, and that's it. It's kind of interesting, but at any rate, that's as far as I got with that one.
Yes, the challenge is doing something that you don't really like is really a bigger challenge.
Well, yeah, I've worked with other things like birds and branches and things where you're round. So the rounding of the arms was kind of like making a branch look round when you have trees and branches and so on. But it's just a similar thing. He's got a long nose and long fingers, and you kind of make them look round.
Okay. Any questions for Brian or suggestions? You have to put your mic on if you're muted. Well, thank you, Brian. Go ahead.
Sorry, Brian, just a quick question. Did you choose which one you were going to do, or did you just kind of do your own thing with the character itself?
No, I think you sent out, I think you sent out 3 different ones, did you?
Yeah.
And I just picked one. I can't remember what the others are. I think I don't know. I just picked one.
You picked the end one, the one with the shading, or the one with the, well, obviously not the cross-hatched one, but you just picked, or the wood-burned one. Do you happen to remember? I just don't want to pick on you.
I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
It was probably the first one in the set. I don't know.
Okay, so the only thing that I would say is that if you picked the one that has the shading and you wanted to focus on more of a realistic look to it, you'd not want to outline it with a line. But if you were picking up the cross-hatched one that had a little bit of both, but you didn't want to do the hatching per se, you wanted to do a combination of an outline and a shading, then it's awesome. Just be careful that if you are doing a shading and you're trying to make it more realistic, that you don't outline your piece. That's all I would say.
Okay.
Thanks, Holly.
No
Anyone
problem.
else?
Thank you.
We'll go to the next person, and that's Brian Graham. Brian, are you there? Perhaps isn't yet joined our meeting today.
There I am.
Oh, there, okay.
Yeah, I I had a lot of trouble because I was, as I said to you, I was trying it on paper, and it's 100-gram paper, and it seemed touching down, and I was having problems. So it's not much of an effort, but I was just going for the outlining a little bit more. I know some people have put some backgrounds in and things, but I wasn't really interested in the character that much. So. But I would like some more feedback from people who do it on paper, because I was having a lot of trouble with my pens. As soon as I touched down, I got a dot, and it didn't spread out very well.
With the your pen, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Maybe the temperature of the pen was a bit high. Like you're just touching it and you're burning it, so.
Yeah, yeah, right, Brian. I tried that. I tried turning it down a bit and turning it up. I don't know. I was using the shader mainly, and it started to work a little bit more at the end once I got my temperature corrected.
See, the middle ones here are a little better, but the.
Yeah, I just touched it and it kept burning, and I burned through in a couple of spots too.
Looks like he had trouble walking across the coals, the hot feet.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I was gonna say, it kind of gave him like a cool little, like, he looked a little haggard, doesn't he? He looks awesome. I was gonna say, so what burner are you using?
I'm using a Coalwood.
You're using a Coalwood. Okay. So what I was gonna, I'm not.
I used to sort of, I actually used the Detail Master I have here. I have the Coalwood too, but I was using the Detail Master with the Coalwood tip.
Okay. So it's really the best thing to say, the best advice I have for you is move before you put your pen down. And that's could probably sounds really, really complicated, but I want you to practice this. So get your hand moving in a sketching motion or in a circular pattern. Blow a little bit on your tip to cool it down, and then touch the paper. So what you're doing is you're cooling the temperature down right quick, as much as it possibly can, so that it has time, you have time to touch the paper before it burns it. So practice that. The thing is that anytime that you take your pen and you put it on a piece of paper, you're going to get that burn mark on it because the energy or the heat is already in the tip. So what you want to do is you want to beat the heat essentially. So if you get your motion, whatever, whether you're drawing in a circle or whether you're drawing in like a hatching or whatever type motion you're using, get to moving. I think I can show you if you pay attention to my other camera. Get moving fast before you put your pen down. And then when you touch the wood, you'll find that you won't have that dot. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, I've done some paper before, but it almost was like a completely new show for me this time. So
And
I
what
will try that, Holly. Thanks for that. I'll try another one and see if I can do better.
Yeah, what paper were you using again?
Just 100 gram, 140 gram, I think maybe. And it was very smooth.
Very cool.
Holly, Holly, just a moment, just to suggest to you that when this PowerPoint is on, we only see your face. But what we can do at the end, when we finish the PowerPoint, if you could then switch to the other camera, we'll have you on up closer to let people see what you're doing with your hand.
Oh, right. I know. Just if you down at the bottom of your screen, it's a separate camera altogether. So it's still there. So you can see my hand.
Well, this when this PowerPoint takes over, it takes over the whole screen.
Oh, I see all of you.
Yeah. Well, you won't see on this part is what's recording. It's just the one particular piece.
Oh,
Right.
that's interesting. I see all of you.
Okay.
Okay, carry on.
Okay, we'll go to the next one here, just a moment. And Agnes Scott, From Dark to Light. Agnes, turn your mic on.
Okay, can you hear me? Right.
We got you.
Yeah, I'm very new at this. My first one that I did, it was just full of blotches. So I thought with doing it as lightly as I can, I won't have as many of these too dark spots and just the dark spot. I think it's the same thing that Brian was experiencing. So I thought I'll start with this and then I'll go over it again. To make it darker, but I want to make sure that I'm not just doing dark blotches on it. One of the things that I would like to do is I don't see the line marks, and I see them.
One suggestion I could offer you maybe at this point is that the line marks, if you can start shading first without drawing the line. So turning the temperature way down and then just touching a certain area and to maybe turn the temperature up. As you'll see with the wood, each piece of wood will need a little higher temperature. And when you do that, then you'll start to shade, and you shade the outline rather than draw the line around. And that was what we call, I think that's what I talked about was layering and doing the layers. So the first layer would be a light shading. And then the second layer is a little narrower or not as big. And third layer ends up being a line.
I can't draw, so I need an outline. But I use a carbon paper so that I could use the other type of paper that everyone talked about last time.
Yeah, that was a tracing paper they talked about from Lee Valley.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Agnes, did you try erasing the line after you did the burning?
Yes, actually, this is not finished. I was going to make it darker, but I don't want to ruin it by having all the dark splotches.
Yeah, once you had it sort of in the outline, I think you could take your eraser and get rid of your carbon line, and then you'd go back and do your burning.
So you're saying I should erase it and then burn?
Erase the pencil, erase your carbon mark. Yeah, it'll come off, and then continue on with your burning. Now that you've got the outline on there pretty good. So.
I can't seem to erase it. It was so dark. But so that's part of the reason why I was going to go. Well, I know it needs a lot more shade, but I am just getting used to the tips that I have, and I don't even know the right tip, whether I'm using the right tip or not. I have tried different ones, and my razor tip, I'm wondering whether it's very old when I bought it, that it's not hitting it right. I don't know.
Well, I think you've done a very good job to start off with. That's very good. And I would just maybe use the shader tip from now that you could shade in some of the areas on the back and the legs. Like Brian Bell was saying that you could round a few things.
Any other comments?
Yeah. Okay. I don't really know what rounding means, so I really am very new at this. But by watching and what is done later, I might uh, understand what people are meaning.
That's probably a good thing. Now you're going to see some different kinds in just a few moments of everybody's done. So that might be a real help to you. We'll just go to the next person here and see what happens with, there's just a few pyrography. Brett Schultz.
I'm here.
Okay. Over the
So
left-hand side, I see the start of that outlining that Agnes is talking about. How did you put that on there?
With the Lee Valley graphite,
Okay.
and it's on a piece of hard maple. It's been sanded and burnished to 600 grit. So that's I picked it out special because of the top right corner is a little bit mystical. This is for my granddaughter. She's into Harry Potter. I'm not, but it helped me to have audience for this. I did have problems with, if you look at the Warner Brothers logo at the bottom, the very fine words. I had a lot of issues with that. Eventually had to take a power grinder with a very fine grinding tip to just get the letters white again.
Anyone jump in right now and give Brian some feedback, or Brett some feedback, I should say. You know what, Brian? Brett.
I like your interpretations. It's very good, quite different. I'd like to talk about the lettering, but I don't think that's the main topic today. So maybe we could pick it up later in the show.
Sure.
Brett, I have a question for you. Burning on the maple is harder than basswood or birch plywood, I would say. Later today, I'll talk about something, but this is sugar maple, it looks like. It's a really hard maple one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the look of the burl in the corner. It's really, really nice. It's a good choice of wood. But did you have to burn hotter to get to work on it? Did you have to turn your burner hotter than normal?
Yes, it is a razor tip system.
Yes.
That was running between 5 and 7, depending on how dark I needed to take it.
Okay, so you had to go up to 7, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
I also liked your choice of wood, Brett, and the figure does look very interesting on there. It's quite nice, and the shading is good on the legs and everything. I like that.
It was a good project to learn how to shade, and that's something I have been struggling with. So it was good.
I think you would find as you try to do another one on a different piece of wood, your results will be different also. Because of what you picked up the first time, the second time you can avoid some of those things. Okay, we're going to look at the next picture here. Len Cunning, are you there?
I am.
Tell us what happened.
Well, I traced it out using graphite paper, and I started with a light line all the way around. Actually, I didn't shade at the beginning. And then I went back after and tried to pull the line into a shade type area type thing to make it a little bit darker. And then I sort of covered them over. I used the last picture that was on that package of, so it had a bit of the hashing and shading already on it. So I went with that, and I sort of had them set up so that I could flip back and forth to the picture to actually see if I was getting anywhere close to what it was. I tried to stay as much to the picture as possible and didn't really try too much of anything out of the ordinary. I stayed with what was on there. I know I'm having issues with my vision, and I just bought myself a magnifying stand type thing so that I can get into more finer details. And I did notice my pen temperature, and I was really trying to tone it down because I'm burning on basswood. And I think I might need a few finer tips to try and get some details around the eyes. And I wasn't really confident getting in there closely. So that's it.
Good job, man. I love the
Thanks.
lettering. That's a lot of work. Anyone else jump in there? Question for Len.
I'm jumping in, but I'm not picking. I actually just wanted to compliment and say I think it's really great that you can tell you were paying attention to your temperatures, because there's not a lot of starts and stops, and your lines on the outside, even though you did the outline around the whole photo, you can't really tell where one edge starts and one edge stops. And I've noticed a lot of people have that trouble where the lines don't quite meet. Sometimes they overdo it a little, and like it's wonderful. It's a great piece. Anyways, just thought I'd say good job.
Thanks.
We'll come to Robert Thompson. Robert, would you like to jump in here?
Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah, I just used a pear shader. It was on basswood too. And I just sort of followed the outline of the original one. I used tracing paper as well from the Valley.
I think as you, if you think about the pattern that you had to work with, there was a lot of detail in there that I had to think about. And one of the interesting ones is the collar at the back of his neck. It's kind of folded over. The whole thing is an old rag or a bed sheet or a handkerchief or something. I think he actually blows his nose on the front of that thing. So it's a really dirty piece of cloth in the movie. So making it look kind of rough is not all that problem. Any other thoughts for Robert? Don't be afraid to jump in or ask a question. Next person, Holly.
I guess I should probably unmute myself when I go to talk. Okay, so I did all three so that you could kind of see what it would look like as a burning. I know that the actual photo that we were given, the one example was a burning. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to do a different rendition with like a little bit different. For my piece, I used just the dollar store plywood, like the little cheapy stuff you can get, because I wanted to show you guys that you don't have to spend a lot of money on wood to get the same effect and do a really great piece. I know that some woods can be challenging, and so I offer the advice of always check your wood and make sure it matches your subject matter. And it was Brett. Yeah, Brett, you did like an amazing job picking out your piece of wood. And so like, I think that for the next challenge, it'd be really cool if you guys kind of search out your wood and see what you do. Again, like I said, I just did one of each. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
I think this
When you
is,
did the,
go ahead.
so Ollie, the last example where it's all shaded, the last one, the one on the right, the farthest one, do you start light and then gradually darken, raise
Yes.
your temperature?
Yeah. So I don't ever touch my burner, but I increase my speed. Now that's just my style. But yes, what I do is I start on the back I do a practice, and I get to get the feel of the wood and get the feel of the tip that I'm using and the temperature that I'm working at. And so I get to doing some stroke marks and some random shading circles and whatever technique I'm going to use in my shading pattern. And then from there, I play with my temperature until I find something that works with how fast I'm working. From there, I can usually control how dark it gets based on how fast or how slow I work. If in working with it, I want to create something really, really dark, I then increase my number by just a hair. But for most of it, I use hand control for my temperature. But yes, everything's built.
Do you remember what your setting was on this one?
So this is a razor tip system. And
Yes.
for my hand, like my hand, I'm between 6 and 7, but I work very fast.
Okay, because that's high, but that's okay.
Yes, I work very fast.
Well, fast is good if you're getting that kind of results.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. It's beautiful.
Thanks.
What kind of a tip did you use?
Believe it or not, I tried a new one. So later on, I can show it to you, but it's actually just a detailed tip for doing feathers. But I'm in the process of trying out my tips and seeing what lengths they go for my classes that I'm starting. So I'm just trying to see if I can get away with doing all different types of styles with one tip so that I can tell my students that they don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money.
So you did this with one tip?
Yes.
Murray, can you move that slide over just a bit? We can't see the last half of the third picture.
I don't know, does that help you there at all? Can you see the whole slide?
Doesn't matter.
I've got it.
I think it's based on your computer, so you can move the pictures off to one side, huh?
Now, what could happen if you're interested in this? We could ask folks to post it on the Facebook page, the OWCA Pyrography page, and then they can zoom in and look at it closer. Or perhaps we could even email you the pictures that we're showing tonight individually. Would that help? Yeah. Then
That's fine. I was just curious.
if you're working from a tablet tonight, it would be probably a little bit small. But it would be great to have it on a larger screen and be able to enlarge, as you save it as a file to one of your folders. And then when you click onto it, your computer should be able to let you zoom in. When I did that on Holly's picture on each one of those, the eyes are amazing.
Thank you.
I put it on my TV screen, so from my computer to my TV screen, and boy, that makes it really look sharp. Nice going home.
Thank you, Brian.
Too technically advanced for me.
What is Ollie? What is really interesting is the shadow below the feet.
Yeah.
That is well done. Great thinking there.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Great. We'll come back to that in a few moments here. The next one is Sylvain.
Yeah. So
And talking
So-
about feet. There you are.
yeah. So I'll start by saying what I've done here. I had a piece of basswood in my stock that was actually one side was live edge and it was like cut from a leftover. So what I did is I started by preparing my board by gluing the two parts together to make a single board that would give me some live edge. And then I sanded my basswood up to 600 grit to get it really fine. And then I did Adobe. And what I did is I looked at what you sent, the patterns, the 3 patterns, and then I went to Pinterest and I just did a search on Adobe, the house health. And by gone, there was a pyrography already done of it that I use as a model. So I cheated a little bit. I used the same pattern, but it was the same pattern, but somebody else has done it. So it helped me more to see the shades and so on. And I started to work on it. I still have to work that side. I have a tendency to change my temperature as I go along. So in other words, it's not, I don't play on speed. I actually change the temperature, and I try, sometimes I outline, sometimes I just use the shade, and I have to slow down to make attention details. Then it was just hanging there on the board, and I wanted to do something different. So I decided to make a pebble type of ground because it was in Harry Potter and so on. I thought you might have walked on that kind of floor before. So I did that. A bit of trouble with the actual angle. I think I angled it a bit too much, a bit unshining. Now that I see the shadow that Ollie did under her feet, that would have been nice to do that on those rocks as well a bit. So anyway, this is my third piece. So I really enjoy doing this. That's it for mine for now. I can answer things or discuss.
For your basswood, what were your heat settings set at?
So I did some 4 and 5. And that's about the maximum. I went 5. I did a 6 around the eyes and the back of the shoulder. I did a 6. And I think I did a bit of 6 for the pebbles between the cracks to the pebbles to get it darker. But mainly on the basswood is between 4 and 5.
I like the picture. It's great.
Thanks.
Okay, next person.
Oh, that's mine.
That's right.
Yeah, actually. Okay.
Give us an explanation
So, did you
what
want to
happened.
talk about it? Do you want to come back to it or talk to it? You want me to talk to it, or Marie, do you want me to speak to it?
Yeah, to this, the one that's up here now is the one with the church bell, or
Yeah. So I said that I sent to Murray yesterday, work in progress. So that's something I'm currently working on. And what it is, it's a picture of a trip that my wife and I did in Italy before COVID. So that was our last trip. And that's a picture she took of the bell tower of a church in Italy. It was south of Italy in Sicily. Taormina is the town. And what I did is I'm having a bit of trouble doing the stones and so on. And I find that I went a bit too dark on the right side, the small thing. Now I should have went lighter. And I think I'll need to make it darker to try to bring it back. So, and this is maple, sugar maple. And I have to burn a lot hotter. And I'm having a bit of trouble burning on this wood. So I don't know if there's any suggestion of how to improve this. And that's why I send it as a work in progress.
Just from my experience with the hardwood, I had to use a lot of scraping for some of the darker stuff just to lighten it up a little bit. So that's what I had to do.
Okay, so you're using a scraper to go in and remove some of the burning?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
was the original picture a black and white picture?
No, it was not. The one I sent you is I converted to black and white. The original was color and I converted it.
What I've done in this setting is I do the same kind of thing with a colored photograph or colored piece that I'm doing, and then convert it to a grayscale. And I do then maybe 3 different exposure settings, making new photos from it. So by increasing the exposure, making it brighter, you can see some of the detail differently than you can in the color. But then I go back to the color and refer to that quite often.
Okay. Good idea.
It's the wonder of the computer and what these graphic programs do. It's just, it really helps me.
Okay, thanks.
Any other thoughts? It's an amazing piece.
It's a great souvenir.
You even got the pigeon rack up there.
I'm gonna jump in and say great, like an awesome piece of wood. The only problem that you're gonna struggle with is that anytime you're doing any type of hardwood, what you want to do is just make sure that you work on a preferred end grain as opposed to a face grain, and that will help you out quite a bit. So anything that you try on a face grain like this, where you can see all the little lines and all the little grain, you're going to struggle with keeping your temperature consistent. So when you hit a grain, it's going to change it on you. And that might be what you're talking about, that little bit of fluctuation in color and things like that. That's caused mostly by the woods. Don't beat yourself up. It's definitely not all you. The only other comment that I wanted to say was watch with your bell. People have a tendency to draw what they think they see and not necessarily what they see. So if you look in your picture, your bell is actually very dark in comparison to the stone around it. And even though your bell is dark, it's not quite as dark enough if you are matching your photo to a T. So just keep in mind, just work on your gradient, just make sure you're taking a good look. It should go your wall and then your cracks, but your bell is almost the same color as like the really hard cracks you have on the left-hand side there. So just keep in check, you watch your bell, but it's going to be a great piece. Like it looks phenomenal. And you say that you're struggling with the stone, but the stone looks great. So party on.
Okay, thanks.
And a brave man to do clouds with a black and wood.
We'll see how they come out. Right.
Real light shading. Well, great. Thank you so much. I think that was the last one you sent.
Yes.
Go to Catherine. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
It's your turn.
So, my turn. So like all of you, I sand to 600 grit. I use the graphite paper, but I only trace it so that I can barely see the graphite markings. If you go too heavy, you're actually making an impression in the wood, and it's almost impossible to remove after that. I tend not to outline, but if I must, what I'll do is I'll use a very, very cool, not hot tip, and I'll just barely dot the outline in so that when I actually come to do the burning, I have an outline to work with. And then I erase, after I do the dots, I erase my lines, and then I work from there so that it's not a hard outline. It's a very, very, very almost invisible outline. And when I go to do the dark parts, I do what Holly does, is I use my pen speed to determine the depth of color. And so if I want it dark, I go slow. If I want it light, I go fast. So when I'm doing some of the areas that are really dark, like his far side elbow, I would have put my nib down, and I use a small round shader. And so I'll put the nib down right along the line where his arm and the cloth meet, and I'll hold it there, and then slowly I'll drag it towards where I want the shadow, and then I'll speed it up as I want it to be lighter. And I'll do it in layers. I don't try and do it in one stroke. It's many, many layers often to get it that dark. Like Baz, I didn't like him hanging in midair. So Baz had done his first, but I'd already thought of doing it. But I went cobblestone. And since I did this version, well, not version, but step, I've now added a doorway to the right. And if you look in the room, you'll see.
I'll go to another picture here for you, Catherine. I think, well, just first one, this is the real good up close.
Yeah, there's the eyes. I always do the eyes first. If there's eyes in a picture, I do them first. And I spend more time probably on the eyes than anything else. Because if you don't get the eyes right, you might as well throw it out. At least I think so. So you see the highlights there. You see the different shadings on the iris of the eye, and then the really dark pupil.
Okay, I think we go to the next picture. Has the other one you were talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's just sketched onto a picture of Dobby, because when I want to play with something, I make a picture, print the picture, and then play with a pen and see if I really want to do it and how I want to get it done. And there you can see the close-up of my cobblestones. I did not try and go for an even heat because cobblestones aren't even. I deliberately did some darker sort of hollows in the cobblestone.
I think, is that the last one you had?
I
No,
think so, yeah.
No, you said it's this one here too.
Oh, well, yeah.
This is
Now,
a while ago.
that I did back in 2014, I think. I'd only been burning for about a year. And I spent hours at our little club clutches with those stupid cedar logs putting the grain in and on the log cabin. And where those notches are on the edges of the walls, that was stippled in. I spent hours. Bob, Brian, maybe not Baz because he wouldn't have been there. You'll probably remember stippling in those stupid end grains.
Yeah, I remember.
It actually did quite well at our show. So
Okay, I can go back here now. If others want to see more of Dobby, just as we were talking about the different methods, the one on the left is one of the first stages you sent to me.
right.
And then the final one was, we showed this back here already on this one, the original, one more back. And that was the final product right there, right? Except for the, you might have something else in the background, I guess, on that.
Well, I've done more shading on the floor now too. And I've put in a baseboard. You know, it evolves. And I am not a Harry Potter fan. I'm doing this for the daughter and her kids.
Any thoughts or questions? It's a marvelous piece of biography.
I love it. I love it.
If I can comment, the eyes are incredible. And just the little white mark to show the highlight, they're fantastic. And the floor is really good too, especially when you showed the close-up one where you can see the definition between the stones and the darkness. Great work.
One thing I usually say to people when they ask me about pyrography is when you get artwork from somebody else and you're working off, not necessarily a photo, but when somebody else's artwork, check the artwork. They often have perspective wrong. And if perspective is wrong, it kind of, your eye doesn't realize why it's wrong, but it knows it's wrong. So vanishing points, perspective, and to make things come to life, you have to have your darkest darks and your lightest lights, or else it's dead.
Anyone
So
else? Go ahead.
Catherine, if I can say, for somebody who's not a Harry Potter fan, it sure doesn't show in your work. I think you've really really added something to this work, and I'm quite impressed.
Well, you know, everybody brings something of their own to any piece they do.
That's right.
So Dobby's just a wrinkled old man as far as I'm concerned. Really wrinkled around the neck.
Beautiful work as usual, Catherine. Just beautiful.
Excellent.
Well,
Excellent.
Baz, Brian, and Bob see a lot of the stuff I do. So yeah.
Now you folks all hang out in Ottawa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any
Yeah,
other
we-
comments?
We have our group called the Pyromaniacs, so we meet about once a month usually, but not anymore for a while. But Catherine has always been one of our best pyrographers, so I love the eyes too, they're great. And the nose, Catherine, that nose is fabulous.
Well, I had a great teacher, Brian. My
Thank
first
you.
pyrography course was from Brian.
Well, thank you so much. Moving on here. Past the cowboy.
Nope.
To Keith. Now, Keith is not necessarily a Harry Potter fan. I can tell you that right out front, right, Keith?
Probably you'd be fairly accurate, but I don't know anything about Harry Potter at all. But one of the things that I've done recently, I've shied away from doing animals and animal fur like the plague, but since we're in the middle of a plague, I decided to maybe get outside of my box a bit, and I've done a couple of pictures here. These are been under the instruction of an artist named Julie Bender. This is the second piece that I've done, and the first piece that I did, I guess, is coming up next. Murray, is it the coyote?
Yes, I'll put that here.
Yeah, and
Oh, wow.
the second picture, which was the first one that you saw, was the bobcat, and I think it turned out quite a bit better than the coyote. But anyhow, it's just for me to get outside of the box and among other things, learn how to do animal fur has kind of been a bit of an eye opener for me. This isn't finished. I'm actually considering burning a dark border around it. And I'm probably also going to be painting the butterfly. I don't normally paint my work because I'm not a very good painter at all, and I don't want to put dozens of hours into burning something and then ruin it in half an hour by messing up the paint job. But I'm going to give it a try this time around. So
Keith, just ask you a question on this. When you do the fur and say working on that bobcat, are you putting the fur lines in first and shading after, or shading first under the undercoat more or less with the hair shown on top?
I do the shading first and then add the detail for the line, the hair lines in later. And I've still got a bit more work to do in that respect. But no, it's still, and it's probably like the, oh, go ahead.
Keith, I was just going to say on the whiskers, I always have trouble with animals with the whiskers. Putting them in is just the hardest thing for me, but I was wondering what you thought of that.
Yes, definitely it is. And in the photograph that I drew this from, they were white, and I did one picture 3 or 4 years ago of a tiger, and I kind of messed the whiskers up, so I decided to just avoid that problem and draw them in dark. And thinking that I'm probably the only one that would know that they were originally white. But and I could try going back in with a colored pencil and drawing them in white, but I think I'll just leave well enough alone on it.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Trying to go white is really hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I might, if you don't like oil paints or acrylics, I would just go with colored pencils on the butterfly with the oil pencils. It's really easy, and you can work it into the wood with a little solvent, and it'll take you only about 15 minutes to do it.
Yes, actually, I use in the little bit of painting that I've done, I've used watercolor pencils, and my hands are quite shaky, and I find it a lot easier to work with a pencil than a paintbrush.
Exactly.
One thought that I had when I look at the butterfly, that if I was to do a butterfly, and I have done some on the side of gourds, but I do a butterfly on a separate piece to make sure I understand the different cells and the way that the butterfly's wings are. Trying to get both left and right wing exactly the same is a bit of a problem.
Yes. Sounds like good advice, Murray.
You'll find a butterfly person, sure enough, will come along and look at your display and say, aha, here's the problem.
Yes, yes.
Anyone else with a comment or a question?
Just that nature's not perfect and no animal's perfectly symmetrical, so don't sweat it.
That sounds like good advice too.
It's a beautiful picture. I love that. Looks good.
I can feel the butterfly floating, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, the butterfly wasn't in the original picture, and when Julie gave that to us as a class project, she added the butterfly in with Photoshop, and I think it adds so much to the picture.
Well, thank you, Keith. I'll go back. We'll take one more look at the coyote, is it? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I see this picture, I see the intent on the animals, what he's going to about to take a rabbit or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. When critiquing this myself, I think the color on the back, the rear part of the back is maybe a bit too uniform. If I was going to do it over again, I would have had a bit more variation in it, but to give it a bit more depth. But otherwise, for my almost my first picture showing animal fur, I'm fairly pleased with the way it turned out.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Keith. Well, moving on here. Alan Nethercott, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here.
This is an amazing piece of pyrography and artwork.
Looks a little bit different when it's shown sideways.
Yeah, I've got the segments coming up here. But I can see this being one of the things I feature in the next magazine.
Oh, thank you.
Would you go ahead and describe what we're looking at? Because we're going to see the detail in just a moment up closer.
Okay, this started out just kind of as an experiment. I wanted to see what it was like to try to carve bone. So I chose something fairly simple, the lotus flower. And I carved that out of a bone I picked up at the grocery store as a soup bone. But then when I thought about mounting it on something or displaying it, I just started with different ideas, a dark background to make it look better. And I had done previous burnings on canoe paddles, so that's how I hit on the canoe paddle. And originally I wanted to show ripples in the water around it, but I struggled with getting the right reference ideas for the ripples, and I finally fell upon the lily pad idea. And it was a lot of fun to do. The paddle I got off Amazon. It's made in Southern Ontario somewhere, and it's very soft wood. It's an aspen wood, which here in Thunder Bay we just call poplar. But I had a hard time with the grain lines, as was mentioned before by Holly. And that kind of dictated how I did the shading, because I was having a hard time getting an even gradual shading done on it.
Let's look at the detail here then, Alan. You can describe that better from the pictures you see.
The water droplets are an afterthought as well, and I really had a lot of fun doing those. And I think for the ease it was to draw them, the result came out, I thought, not too badly. It's just an oval with dark shading on the inside of the top and on the outside of the bottom.
It looks beautiful.
The hard part was I did all of the shading first, and then I scratched out the highlight for the catch light on the top. And the darker you shade, the deeper it goes into the wood. So the deeper I had to gouge to try to scrape it back to the light color. And eventually I kind of gave up on that, and I used what they call a jelly roll pen. It's kind of almost like a cross between ink and a marker, I guess. And that made doing the dots a whole lot easier. Oh, and the grip of the paddle when I first did the dots, it was just on a plain background. It wasn't shaded. And to me, it looked just terrible. There's no life to it at all. But then as soon as I added the shading, it brought them out a little bit more.
To help us, it would probably, I should have taken the photo, turned it upside down, turned it the other way up. But it is amazing to see those water droplets. They look so real.
They were fun to do. I think it's just the contrast that makes them stand out.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, the water drops are incredible. It looks like a mirror. It really brings the whole thing alive. And the idea of carving in bone, that's pretty amazing as well. How do you get the bone so white? Do you have to bleach it or?
No, actually, I have to confess some of that might be the photo. What I was trying for was an ivory look, and it does have a slight ivory tint to it.
Yeah.
But I just polished it and I cleaned it with a little bit of peroxide, and that bleached it out a little bit whiter.
That would bleach it, yeah. And the dark lines in between, sort of like they do with marquetry, where they scorch the edges to give that contrast. But did you use a burning tool there, or is that just the way it came out?
If you mean the flower, that's just the shading, the depth in the carving.
Between the petals.
That's just the way it came out with the shading, with the lighting. It wasn't anything I did.
It's lighting. Oh, okay. So the bone has a three-dimensional flavor to it a little bit.
Yes, it was carved kind of as a low relief carving.
So it's a carve. Okay, very good. Yep. It's amazing.
And I just stuck it on there using plumber's silicone.
Okay.
And I haven't signed it yet because I'm not sure if I'm finished. It's at the stage right now where I put it up on the wall and I'm just living with it. Once I'm sure I'm done, then I'll try to think of a place to put a signature on it.
Any other questions or comments?
I was gonna say you did a great job working with the grain. I have 2 of these paddles waiting for me, and if I ever get a chance to work on them, I live in Seguin, which is 5 minutes from Perry Sound, and they have paint your paddles or create a paddle events where like they set these up and you buy for $25, you buy the canoe paddle, and the whole community comes together and puts them together, and then they auction them off once a year. They didn't do that because of COVID this year, but anyways, very, very awesome project. But that is one of the concerns when doing wood burnings on it, is you have to choose the right picture to put on it, because you have to work with the grain and work with the glue if they had to laminate it. So, but you did such an amazing job. I'm super impressed. Good job.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a problem with a couple of laminations in the paddle. And you
Yeah.
can see one of them runs right down the center of the flower.
Yeah. But you did such a great job with the grade, like the gradient going from one end to the other, and like it not really interfering at all. Like it looks great. Good job.
I heard a lot of people asking questions about temperature, but I find it depends a lot on what tip you're using. The more mass there is to your tip, the higher you have to crank it up to get the heat setting that you want.
I don't think anybody would want to use it as a paddle in the canoe.
Ones I've done before, I put a clear urethane on so they could still be used as a regular paddle.
Yeah.
I don't think the flower is going to work on this one though.
Take one more last look at the full paddle together.
Well, what is the collar around between the blade and the shaft?
That's a piece of leather that I had burned a pine cone on. It's actually made for a different paddle, but I had to find some way to put this on the wall to take a picture of it.
Oh, okay, so that's the holding device.
Yeah, I'll have
Okay,
to try to think of something else for this one that's a little more relevant than a pine cone.
now you need a frog.
That would work, yes.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Andy Thompson. Andy sent this one in. It was a work that he's in progress right now. And yeah, I think he's used a couple of different sources for the buildings and the trees and so on. He's putting the picture together. I don't know if Andy's there. I can't see the list right now to see if your name's up there, Andy. Okay, Peter. You're full of hot air. Turn your sound up there.
Okay, I'm kind of embarrassed to put this up here, looking at all the other things that we've seen. They're fantastic. This is my first attempt at really doing a full pyrography picture. I've used the pyrography a lot as an accenting or supplementary details, but this one is the whole thing. I had trouble getting excited about Adobe, and I had another project on the go, so I kind of left this till the end. So this was done fairly quickly, so it's kind of a sketchy looking thing, and I need to do it again. I've learned so much even tonight as to how I can improve that. And on one of the previous sessions we had, we talked about not doing the hard line on the outside, but to shade it. And I really tried hard to do that on this one. I grew up with steam engines, and my dad worked for the railroad. And this particular photo I have in my collection, that's an original photo that was taken back in the late 50s or early 60s. And this locomotive is on the way to the roundhouse that used to sit where the CN Tower is. So there's a lot of history in this. The difficulties I had were with the, you can't see my cursor, I don't think. The difficulty I had was with the lettering, and the lower plate there, the 1360, underneath it, it actually said Canadian National. And I looked at that and said, there's no way I can do that. So I cheated a little bit, and it was originally white, and I changed it to black and did the CNR. But the upper plate is actually lighted, so you have the white light showing through between the black surroundings. And that was a bit of a challenge to do that. You can't read the numbers very well. It's 1360, but I needed to do something to at least look like there was a number there. I tried to interpret the steam coming out the sides. So you could see it on the black and white picture, and that was a little difficult. And I added the smoke because I thought if there was steam, there must have been a little bit of smoke. And I was kind of happy with how the smoke came out. But a lot of this is something I've never tried before. And I have several razor tips that I used, and I tried to see what I could do with each one of them. So that's sort of my first attempt at trying to do something. But I love.
Peter, what kind of wood did you burn on?
Oh, that's on basswood.
Okay.
And I sanded it. I sanded it to 220.
Any questions or comments for him?
I'm often asked about using an aid to make lines, and metal draws the heat away from your tip. Wood you burn along with your burning. So I get these glass nail files at the drugstore. It's a piece of glass that's ground to make it a nail file, but that nice edge doesn't either take away heat from your nib, and nor does it burn when you're burning. So if you want to make your lines straight, you can use a glass nail file. And unlike a piece of glass that you get from a broken picture, there's no sharp edges.
I have a question about the lettering, in that I have it's the Colwood, but I think someone said earlier with the lettering, there's a ball tip burning tip, is that right? Does it move around a little more easily? I find it difficult to, like in my signature, the end, just to take a tip and kind of move it around very slowly. But it's not even, and it's very difficult to do. And yet some of you could make that 1360, for example, very easily if you just draw on and then you take the tip and just go around it. But
I used a very, very small ball tip, which I use for all my lettering that I do. That's
Is
what
it
I
just-
use there. This piece of wood is only 3 inches wide by 7 inches high, so it's not very large. Well, it's actually the size of the photo.
is the tip though just a point?
It's the ball doesn't roll. It's just like a round ball on the end of the tip.
Oh,
But it's very easy to do lettering, and it's only about a 1/16 of an inch in diameter.
I'm sure. I have a Colwood burner, and I don't know where to get any more tips or nibs. The address on the machine is in New Jersey. So I don't know. I think, is there anything in Canada you can go directly to get Colwood accessories? From anybody?
I think Chipping Away has carries some Colwood things. That's in Kitchener.
They don't carry the replaceable tips, though. They just carry the pins.
Okay.
Oh, there's no way to get extra tips.
I would order them online. That was the best bet you have. Order them right from Colwood. Then not only that, but if you get it and you're working with it and it breaks, they'll replace it for you.
It's from where? It's Chipping Away?
No. Right from Colwood, right online. If you order online, they'll ship it to you.
I see. So they may have a catalog or something.
Yes, online.
But the
Yeah.
danger I would give you on this is that once you start ordering online, it is addictive.
Truth.
The Amazon deliveries are to my house almost daily. My granddaughter right now is doing renovations on her small Trillium trailer that she bought. And so Grandpa's actually advising her on all the tools and watching what she does. It is so much fun. We get all the stuff sent to the house. It's like Christmas every day.
Yeah, Brian's showing you some of the Colwood tips that
Yeah,
are.
there's the 3 Colwood sizes. Very small to the larger one. The larger one is only.
Brian, can you put a piece of white paper behind it?
Yeah, I'll try that. Yeah, okay.
Also, when I'm using the ball tip, I don't try and write the lettering. I stipple the lettering in. I don't try and drag the tip across the wood.
Say that again, Catherine?
When I've got my lettering and I decide where I want the letters, I don't
Okay.
actually draw the letters with the pen, with the nib. I stipple them on, like very lightly with the tiniest ball.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
I-
there's I put the white paper behind it now.
Brian, are those, they have a little ball at the end of them, do they?
Right, just
And
sort
they're-
of,
And they're Colwood.
yeah, they're,
Are they from Colwood?
yeah,
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? I would share one here with you, Peter, is that as an artist in loving pictures, especially I lived right near the railway tracks when I was growing up. And so the big trains would come back and forth in the middle of Regina, Saskatchewan, either going east or west. And the sound of, actually when the big freight trains come by, the whole house shook. We were the next house to the tracks.
Wow.
And one thing that happens when I do the artwork and I see a photograph that I'd like to do, I simply would eliminate either whatever it's called, the bridge behind, and just have the engine. To me, the bridge is complicated. It helps maybe to show a little bit of the steam, but some of the shading that you could do on the background around steam would make the steam stand out just as good.
Okay, okay, that's good advice. The
Because
reason I left the bridge in because that's Spadina, and I spent a summer working there in that yard. And to me, that's part of the nostalgia of this picture. So, but it did make it somewhat complicated, but it didn't occur to me to leave it out. I left a lot of the other background noise around the bottom part. I left all that out to keep the contrast with the wood. But you're right, that would simplify. Maybe I'll do that at my next attempt.
Give it a try.
Okay.
Oh,
Great stuff.
Murray,
Thank you.
Murray, if
Yeah.
the question came up about Colwood tips, pens and tips and that sort of thing, the old railway station in Madoc, I don't know if they're still in business or not. They've been at the last few Pickering shows, and they had a good selection of Colwood stuff. So it's worth a try. I tried to order something from them, and I never did get a response from them.
He's
a little while
closed,
ago.
He's closed. Unfortunately, due to COVID, just put him right under. Unfortunately, it just online sales and such. It just wasn't good because the main of his profits was doing the shows. So it just put him right on. Yeah, it just put him right under. I know that he was clearing out stock. So maybe if you can get a hold of him, you might be able to get a hold of like the author there, but I don't think he has what you're looking for. That's the only thing. So
okay.
Well, I can share with you that he just sent Earl just sent me an email of clearing out stock, and both razor tip products as well as Colwood are in that email. I'll forward that email to you after we get finished this. And everything's on about half price.
What is it called?
The old railway station.
Which one?
Old railway station.
Okay, thank you.
And it's Earl Derry. I'll forward the email to you and you can take a look and make contact with him. He'd love to sell it to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Murray.
Okay. I'm not sure what's coming next, except maybe myself. That's it. And I have to rush through this one. Just simply to show you here what happens for myself is on the left-hand picture is a very grainy piece of wood, a lot of deep cuts in it. It was a piece of oak, 1/4-inch plywood. When I started on it at a certain point, I was getting little white lines, but then as I kept going, I wasn't going to quit. So I finished the one on the left, but I finished on the right-hand side is birch plywood, and it's as smooth as butter to work with. So much better. But I think Dobie needs something under his feet. That's what I have to do next on that one. Okay, next picture I've got for you to see is what I've been doing working with barbed wire. I come from the prairie originally from Regina, Saskatchewan, and my family's had farms down southwest of Regina near the Blue Hills, not too far from the American border, and it's flat and a lot of grassland. In this picture, there's a little bit of a slough or a body of water. There's some birds flying over it. The original picture was of barbed wire with the fence and the grass down below. Some of the other things in the horizon I added to it, and plus the birds. So it gives you an idea. I get fascinated with wood grain and with barbed wire. I'll give you another picture here. I found a picture of on Pinterest of Dobie. There's a lot of pictures there, so you get up close to it and work, really in detail. I did the background black to set him out, and so once I did that, he just took on a whole new character. But Holly had mentioned about the grain. As beautiful as this grain is to work on, this wood to work on, in his face, you can see some of the hard lines of the grain changes. And yes, there was problems as you go from the dark piece to the lighter piece. But when I start something, I hate not to finish it. So it was a good practice piece to that for myself. Now, the next one here is some of my barbed wire, and I do other art classes and that kind of thing with as I teach it in my community. And we're doing a lot of pencil work and that kind of thing. So this is really comes with a pencil drawing first, and then from there, simply starting to draw onto the paper. I didn't use tracing paper. I simply use it as a piece of paper that I would draw the picture on. And so that was a piece of barbed wire. The next one I think is one I'm working on right now. It's an old barn. It's a picture of a barn. It's actually a photograph of a really, really old horseshoe. I've got the left side just about done, but the grain of the wood and the definite, trying to follow the thing exact. Now, the way I do my artwork, I don't use tracing paper, but because I can draw the picture just as I see the photograph. I put this on my tablet and I start to draw the picture very, very lightly with the pencil to get the position of the head of the big nail, the railway spike, to get the horseshoe to look the way it was in the photograph. With on the left side of the picture, you see it's longer and it seems to be bent. This horseshoe, when you look at the actual photograph of it, it is really, really old. I don't think it's been a long time since a horse used it. Was ever on a horse. So I'm adding to the top right-hand side, there's a lock that was hanging on a nail not too far away. So I moved it a little closer to where the spike was. And that's my recent picture that I'm working on right now. Now we go to this one. I'm going to call on Holly now to come in to tell us a little bit more about what we'd like you to give it a try to see what happens now in this next month. A pyro piece and a dandelion. Are you there, Holly?
There, I am now. I always forget to unmute myself. I feel horrible about it, but oh well, I guess I'll get practice. Okay, so everybody has a love-hate relationship with a dandelion. And I was doing some homeschooling with my young kids, and I had explored dandelions for a little while and all the different facets of them. And I thought, you know what, this would be fantastic for a challenge. It's something where we always encourage people to find good reference material for what they're working on. So when you're doing your pyrography piece, I encourage you to get out into nature, find a dandelion, find one open, find one closed, find one that has all the little pieces, you know, the wishes, so to speak, and bring them home with you and take a good look at them and the details that's in them before you start your piece. Now, I've created this little piece or 3 different designs. And the idea of doing 3 different designs is so that there is a different skill level for each person. So somebody who wants to work on their line work, they can do the original design. You can do just a nice drawing of a dandelion and its wishes. And if you wanted to get into more stippling and you want to practice your technique on making solid color, or if you want to just practice your line work again, you could also use the middle design. Or if you just want to get out there and you want to practice doing shading and using all different tonal ranges without doing any outlines at all, I threw in another piece. So each one of these is a separate technique and a separate design on purpose. They are my original drawings and designs, so feel free to use them at your own leisure, so to speak. You can put your own creative spin on it. I highly encourage it. I also did it so that instead of taking things off Google, you guys can take it, make it yours, and you can sell it, or you can do whatever you want with it. And then it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have any copyright on it. I'm not copywriting anything. So I highly encourage you to try it. Again, each picture has a flowering dandelion and then a finished dandelion. But like I said, I want you to try and practice different techniques. So practice your line work, practice doing solid colors and stippling, practice your shading and see what you can come up with. Now, Murray asked me if I had sent a picture of the finished piece. Again, like Dobby, I will be doing like all 3 designs so that I can have them finished and you can see what they look like as wood burnings by the next meeting. But I highly encourage people, if they're teaching or if they are putting up an example of their own. I don't know how we're going to do this in the months forward, but I highly encourage people not to share what it looks like or what it's supposed to look like until after everybody's completed it. The idea is that everybody has their own unique images. Everybody has their own idea of what it should look like. And so to have somebody who's putting up the design, have it finished and say, this is what it should look like, I feel like that's not really a challenge. So I want you to give it your all. And like I said, take your creative juices and throw them in there and see what you can come up with. And I look forward to next meeting.
That's great, Holly. Thank you. Now, is it, we could, at this point around where we are, thankfully, the dandelions are just about gone. It's so hot here where we are that I think that they finally give up trying to be alive. But what I like to have is an original or like a photograph that I can work from. So probably in my case, I'm going to use maybe all three of these, but use a picture that I could find of a dandelion where I can look up close and see all the detail in every little part of it. Anybody else would like to ask a questions of this challenge? What would you learn from it if you did it?
I'm looking forward to practice the actual shadowing,
Plug it in.
the shadows. You know, that's what I'm looking for, the shadows, to try if I can get that. And the idea of having more than one also is something I probably will try to explore.
Anyone else want to ask a question of Holly?
You mentioned earlier something about the wood. Is there anything particular you're looking for us to do this, or just the wood that we have around?
I'm not looking for anything in general, but like I said, with artistic license comes an open book. So, you know, if you find something like a spalted maple or something that has like, you know, a little bit of unique energy to it, so to speak, I highly encourage you to try it. I mean,
We have to be careful with the spalted though, because of the it's dangerous, right? So
it is dangerous. However, with that being said, there's safe ways to do everything.
Yes,
I should hope
for
that
sure.
everybody knows how to use their wood burners properly and safely.
Yes.
But even any type of wood that creates a modeling effect where it changes from dark to light. I know oaks have it. Oaks have a lot of pitting and stuff if you use the face grain and things like that. But just anything, if you have something around that you want to try, by all means, I encourage you to try it. I mean, these challenges are for you to explore wood burning to make you better, essentially. So it's kind of nice to see what everybody comes up with, especially since everybody's a little bit in different locations too. There's some from Thunder Bay, Ottawa. I'm in Parry Sound. There's some in Niagara. Like, this is pretty cool. So.
Great.
From my background, the thing that looks like a dandelion appeals to me right off, because I could see that. The other, I would be pushing my head to try and get something out of that, but I'll give it a try, I guess. I just see it as a cloudburst or something.
Does Thunder Bay even have any dandelions? What I suggest, if you want to do something, if you want to challenge yourself, something that's pretty close in my mind to what a dandelion looks like is a pine cone. So you can give it a try, but I found that as I take something on that I've never done before, they really are challenges that make me stretch and make me try to use my burner a little different and my shading differently and all the little techniques in order to try to make my burning look somewhat like my model. Any other comments? I'm going to go out of this, stop this share right now. And what I'd like to do is to go to speaker view. And if you could, Holly, as we have you on speaker view now, when you begin to talk, the rest of you folks should not talk, or you should maybe mute to let Holly say something, and show us something with your second camera that you're talking about. You could maybe, if we'll try to see how the technology works. But if you could mute yourself, and then when Holly speaks, she begins to speak, she'll be just the one on the screen.
Ask you to do instead is, if you go to the top right hand corner of your little box, there should be 3 little dots. And in there, there's a little drop down menu, and you should see the word pin. If you click pin, my face will be your whole screen. So instead of choosing me, can you choose the one that's my desktop, which is this one right here?
I got you.
Got me?
That's it.
All right. Now I'm gonna, and then at the, it'll show up in the top left-hand corner if you want to unpin me. But essentially, if you can find me in the drop-down menu somewhere, if you can go into the gallery view.
Says speaker view.
Yep, you can go in. Okay, I don't want you in speaker view. So go into the top right-hand corner of your screen. You'll see gallery view. Go to gallery view, and then you'll see everybody's face. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now on your little picture, or on, sorry, on the picture, you can see my hand on a piece of wood.
Yeah.
Okay. Now click on that picture, and in the top right-hand corner of that picture, you'll see 3 little dots.
Yep.
And then the drop-down menu should say pin. Did you catch it?
Got the same thing with the other anyway.
I got it.
You got it? So you hit the little, so you find the piece of wood that has my hand on it and click on the top right-hand corner of that picture, and there's 3 little dots, and it should say pin. And if you pin it, it should fill your whole screen with my desktop here.
We've got you.
With an iPad, I'm trying to, okay, just a sec.
This is very interesting. It's a first time trial. I just want to make sure, because if we have a session where we're doing instruction or anything, this is how you can teach face up, or I can even bring my camera around to an angle where you can see my pen.
Somehow I missed out. There we go.
So just those instructions again, to the top right hand of your whole screen, there's a view.
Got it.
Okay, and you hit gallery view, then you should see everybody's face. Once you see everybody's faces, find my piece of wood with my hand and go to the top right hand corner of that little picture. You'll see 3 little dots. And then if you click on it, there's a little button that says pin.
Well, I see you holding your hand on this place. That's a,
So you can't see my wood at all?
no.
We are recording your hand perfectly.
Yeah, so it's up there. I'm just curious on why Brian can't see it.
And you. I don't
Yeah,
know
you
where
should.
that,
Are you still in speaker view?
yes.
Okay, go into gallery view.
Gallery view,
Now you see everybody?
yes,
Okay, now find the picture of my hand.
yep,
Okay, now go to the top right-hand corner of that picture.
yep.
And then you should see 3 little dots.
It
Click
says
on it.
chat or remove pin.
Okay, so I already am pinned.
I guess so.
Interesting. Okay.
Never mind, I'll carry on.
Okay, does anybody else have trouble with that? Did everybody else find the pin? So the reason I wanted to show you this is because this is a good way where we can, if I turn on my fancy little light here. I can now show you my pen tip. What we were talking about earlier.
Put your hand there again, Holly.
Hold on, I'm trying to
I think I
figure
got
out
it.
which way.
Okay, I got it.
There it is.
Perfect.
So this razor tip pen is the one that has the interchangeable nibs. Okay. Or the tips, the nibs.
Be able to get a pin right around here only.
A what?
So by pin, she's getting this part of the picture only.
You had that trouble with the slideshow too, seeing only so much, yeah?
Are you muted? No, you're not muted.
We have a good image of you recording, so it'll be on the video this way.
You
Awesome.
carry on, Holly.
So I just wanted to, it's gonna take some practice for me to get used to holding my pen up to a camera that I can't see. But just so you can see, I just wanted to show you how you can take a simple, or you can find a simple pin, or a simple pin, a simple nib, or a simple tip that you like and change it into a shader. Now, this is a secret. If you read the Ontario Woodworkers, the Ontario Woodcarvers magazine, I'm not sure which issue it was, but I actually wrote about this, about how you can take something that you actually enjoy as a pen or a tip that you're comfortable with, and then you just put it on a low heat setting and slowly bend the tip to your liking. Just be careful not to bend it at the joint. Okay, so the joint is where the there, it can focus. The joint is where the pen tip actually gets flattened for the purpose of using it. And so what ends up happening is if you bend it at that joint, you're weakening it beyond its means, and it will eventually just break, or you can interrupt the actual current that the heat gets displaced through. So you want to be very, very careful or cautious. But if you look at this, the way that I've bent it, you'll see that I've actually put on a bevel on the tip. Hold on, I got to get back in screen here.
Is that tip hot right
This
now?
tip, not right now, no, it's not on.
But you were bending it physically.
No, I'm not bending it right now. It's already bent. I just wanted to show you the bevel that I put on it. And what this does is it allows me to use one pen tip for each design that I do. So much like I can use the speed of my hand to do everything from really light burnings to really dark burnings, I now can use one tip to do everything as well. Now, razor tip and Colwood, and actually there are a few other machines that are on Amazon right now that have a luxury of tips and nibs to use. But these pictures are really like, these pictures are both done with the same pen tip, and it's going to be upside down, so she'll probably flip it for you so that you can see. If I can drop it down just a hair more. And what this should allow you to do is see, if I can.
And pull the whole thing towards you, I guess, or the camera angle. You're just getting one dobby in there.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just trying to adjust it. It's hard because it's also in a mirror image, but I have to look at my computer to get it to, to spin as well. So we're working on this part. The piece of technology that I'm missing is a converter, and it's online. I just have to buy it. Anyways, so what you'll see is that I can use my nib flat, and yes, I'm very warm and hot, as you can tell. So I can do really dark lines that are thick. If you bend your tip sideways, you can do lines that are really, really thin. You can use the tip to do very detailed work, or you can drag it and get thick lines like so. And that's all now with one tip. I can do it all. So I just wanted to share that so that you know that sometimes when we're new to wood burning, the first thing we do is we go and we run out to go buy the, there we go. Aha, there we go. We go out and run and get the most expensive equipment we can buy, or get the best of the best. And essentially what I wanted to say was you don't need to spend a lot of money to do very, very detailed work. If you find something you like, sometimes it's just adjusting it. But like I said, I just wanted you to know that you can do it, but please be very careful, take your time, do it at a low temperature setting so that you don't break it, and do not bend it at the joint. Okay. Now you can unpin me if you'd like.
Oh, well, you're there. I having trouble with those figure eights you were telling us about the last time. Figure
Sure.
eights on the leaves.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's get this fixed up so that I can show you real quick. On a tripod, so I want to make sure that I get this. All right. And you know what? I'm skipping it. And I'm just gonna go like this so I should see. And I'm gonna show you.
It's not on camera yet.
Yep, we're getting there, we're getting there, we're getting there, we're getting there right about there.
There.
Aha,
Oh, no. you don't get-
there. Ah, found it. Okay, so so let's say your tree looked something along the lines of there's something wrong with my setting. All right, so I'm trying to figure out where the camera is. Where is the camera? There we go. Okay, so can you see that okay? No.
We're seeing you just from one angle there. There, it's a little better.
There we go. I can find. So what I'm having a trouble with is trying to find the angle of my camera. I'm using my phone. There we go. Okay, so those figure eights look something along the lines of this. Can you see that?
No.
Way down in the left-hand corner. Even gone off.
No.
I know. Hold on one second. I'm going to switch this camera so that I can actually see what I'm seeing. And I'm going to turn it. Of this.
That's
Better.
got it.
Yeah.
Now wait for it to focus. There we go. Okay, so it's blurry. I don't know why it's not focusing. We're going to work on this for the next meeting. But essentially, your figure eights should be done something along the lines of this. See how they're like almost like little S's? They're hard to see because they're not in focus, I'm sure. So essentially when you do them over and over and over again in a pattern and you build on top of them, it gets darker in some spots and lighter in others. And so it allows you to have this textured look like leaves. I don't know why it's not focusing. If that makes any sense at all.
Is it your cell phone you're using?
Yeah, I'm trying to, yeah.
If you touch the screen of the cell phone on that spot that you're looking at, it'll go in focus.
No, it's not working. I don't know why it's not, but it's not. It just seems to be picking up Dobby more than anything. Like I've touched it. I don't know why it's not. So like I said, I have a piece of equipment en route coming to my house to change this. But anyways, can you see the motion that I'm making with my pen though? Maybe if I exaggerate it, it'll be better. So it's more like this. They're like big S's or big figure eights like this. I have to make it kind of exaggerated so that you can see it. But anyways, if you do that over and over and over again, essentially you'll get something that looks like a bushel of leaves. Yeah, I think it's just too close to focus with my camera. Anywho. There you go.
Paula, you mentioned at the last meeting that you were working towards doing online classes. Is there been
I
any
am.
progress in that?
So I'm working on it. Unfortunately, in order to do them all, I have to record them all. So I have to make the curriculum, I have to do all the projects, and then I have to record them all and then upload them onto my website.
Oh,
So it's taking a little bit longer than anticipated because the two little monsters that I have tend to be a
Yes.
little
okay.
trying.
Okay.
But like I said, I'm working towards it quite steadily, and I'm hoping that hopefully by the end of July I'll have something to offer you.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Keith. And I will keep practicing this new fun technique of working with this. I think I might, instead of using my phone, like I said, if I can get that other camera up and running, that will make a big difference. So that should help in instruction as well.
I'll figure out how to do the pin.
Okay, so that works. We'll both have something to work on here. And you can unpin me if you haven't already.
Oh, I
Where
did
you get-
replaced it.
Or if you don't want to unpin, you can always go back to speaker view, and speaker view will go back to anybody who's talking will show up on your
Look at
screen.
Murray's video.
There you go.
Now we're showing gallery view.
Mhm.
Well, I appreciate everybody's input tonight. I mean, I've learned a lot from you. Lots of ideas. I love the paddle, and I tell you, that's probably going to be appearing in the next magazine about summertime. So if you haven't already received it, you'll probably receive the recent copy, which is supposed to be spring, but I got a little waylaid, and I've just had a hard time getting enough material. Something with COVID and no shows and no people to contact. So in this next edition, there's going to be a whole lot of pyrography. We're going to have it there for you. So any other comments before we close? Questions? It's a thumbs up.
I'll go to Madoff.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time and participation tonight. And if you're going to be in the caricature carvers, that's next Thursday night. And then the following Thursday is the Let's Talk. So I spent a lot of time Zooming.
A lot of good work, Murray.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Put along.
Thanks,
Scott.
everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Good night.